Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. I'm John Ray, and folks, we are broadcasting from inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. And if you are looking for a bank that is safe, sound, small enough to handle all your needs in a personal way, but big enough to have the resources that you need for your small business, that's a magic combination. And I think that exists at Renaissance Bank. I know that personally in terms of the clients that I work with and in conjunction with Renaissance. So if that's what you're looking for, then go to renaissancebank.com and find one of their local offices and give them a call. I think you'll be glad you did. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now I want to welcome Sara Branch. Sara is with Network in Action. Hi, Sara. How are you?
Hey, John. I'm great.
Good. Glad to have you on.
Thanks.
Let's talk about you and Network in Action. How are you serving folks out there?
Well, Network in Action is a business networking group. And you may have an idea about business networking groups. You've probably been in one. We have a new concept based on a 21st century look at networking groups where we reduce the face time and increase the use of technology. And we like to say that we have connections with a purpose. And I'll explain that a little more later.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into the details of how that works, let's talk about you and your journey. Why, what's led you to this point?
Well, I'm a native Atlanta and been here all my life. I've got family members who are business owners. I've seen this happen. I've seen business succeed, business fail. And I know that the big glue for small businesses is the connections they have with other people, other businesses.
Right.
And so I had been in corporate business most of my life. And when it came time for me to make the decision to leave a company, I started looking for options for franchise ownership. My husband already owns a franchise. So he said, hey, let's go out there and see what happens. And for about a year and a half, we researched franchises, looked in the marketplace, looked at brick and mortar, looked at other options, and we wanted to find a franchise, if possible, that would be a complement to his existing franchise. And
Which is what?
Action Coach.
Oh, okay. Let's shout him out. What's his name?
Russ Hall, Action Coach.
Okay, Russ. There you go. Okay. Go ahead.
And he's actually a partner in my business. So.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were looking for a complement to Action Coach. And when we came across Network in Action, we thought that this would be a great fit. And as we did our due diligence with the franchise, talked to franchise owners, we went out to Houston and looked at the operation. We agreed that this would be the franchise for me. So we purchased it last year before I resigned my position at my corporate job so that I could take time to understand it, learn it, spend time with other franchisees. And at the beginning of this year, I started full time.
Good for you. Just as an aside, we've got a lot of folks coming out of corporate right now. We seem always to have a lot of folks coming out of corporate. Corporate has this way of spitting people out, right?
It does, yeah.
Give advice to folks out there that are coming out of corporate and looking at a franchise, and also looking at, I presume you looked at starting your own business, but let's talk about your own experience and the advice you would give.
Well, I learned really from my husband because he left a corporate job, downsized, and they gave him money and time to research what he should do next. You know, what's my next thing to do? And I watched him as he made the decision to buy a franchise because it was simpler and a little bit easier than starting your own business. He did have to incorporate. He did have to start his own corporation, but Action Coach had a business model that they'd been using for 20 plus years that he was able to follow. So that's what I chose to do. Mm-hmm. I chose to find a franchise that had a business model that was relatively easy to follow and would keep me from having to write the policy manual, write the this, write the that mm-hmm. had it already done for me.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's get into the specifics of network in action. And let's just take it up to 40,000 feet for a second and talk about traditional networking, the problem with traditional networking, more specifically, that Network in Action wants to solve.
Right. Well, traditional networking, as you and I know, is designed to bring business owners, solopreneurs, salespeople of big corporations together so that they can get referrals and make more sales. Mm-hmm. And that's great. Traditional networking requires a big commitment, not only in your time to come to meetings, but you're often called upon to volunteer to do things in traditional networking. We don't do that. We don't have weekly meetings. We have monthly meetings. Mm-hmm. We don't recite elevator speeches every week. That is put into our technology platform. And so that's a big new thing in that we take advantage of 21st century technology mm-hmm. to do a lot of the work that ordinarily would happen in a face-to-face meeting. We do have face-to-face meetings, but they happen once a month, and they happen in the evenings, after hours. We have adult beverages and appetizers, so it's a little more low-key environment. And the number one thing we focus on is our members getting the skills that they need to be, one, better at networking, and two, better at running their business. Mm-hmm. And that's a big departure from a traditional business leads or networking group.
So you're, in a way, I won't say discouraging, that's a word that comes to mind, but you're redirecting people, that's the way to say it, away from coming at a networking group wanting to sell their stuff, as it were, if you will.
Yeah.
And coming at it from a point of view of education in a way.
It is. Our franchisor, the man who started the franchise, was a very frustrated member of a traditional networking group. And he felt that he was not getting the nurturing, the encouragement, the enrichment that he needed to improve his business. So he decided to start, he's the one who started from scratch, built the electronic platform, built the business model, the processes, that kind of thing, to turn the focus onto the member and what the member needs to be a better business person. And so that's where that came from.
Right. So it's a little bit of it's a lot of indictment, not a little, not a small indictment. It's a big indictment of networking groups not to teach networking.
Right.
That's kind of what you're saying in a way, right?
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right. I mean, it's so because what you're offering is to help business owners improve their networking skills in a way as if they really can't get this elsewhere. And that's a little bit of an indictment, I guess, in a way.
It is.
So how do you do that differently than these other groups?
Well, as I said first, we meet monthly, and then a lot of the activities that are expected in a regular or traditional networking or leads group happens on our technology platform. Our technology platform is on an app on your phone. And if you want to pass a lead, you don't have to recite your elevator speech because it's recorded on video, and we pass leads by sending links to videos via the platform. And I can send a link within our group. I can send a link outside our group. So immediately, the members of our groups have access to every other person's networking group, and those people's networks and those people's networks. So instead of going to a weekly meeting, reciting your elevator speech and expecting other people to remember it, we can connect in a person in a meeting with 50 people or more just by everybody opening up their phone and saying, I know John. I should connect him with Susie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Susie should be connected to Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bill should be connected to Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen within a few seconds just by using the app on your phone.
Got it. And I should have been more specific on my question earlier. I guess the question is, how do you teach networking that's different than the other groups?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my former career, my former life was a director of training for a software company.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to structure our meetings in an active working training session. So we will come into a meeting and I will set up an exercise where people can talk to each other. I alluded to that in the answer to your previous question.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that is, we can put somebody up at the front of the room, and let's say I stand up there and say, okay, what I need right now this minute, I need connections with people who need landscaping services, because I'm a landscaper.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody in the room gets their phones out, opens up their phones, and finds everybody they see in their phones in their own network that could possibly use landscape services, or somebody they've spoken to, or a business. And immediately, real time, they connect them with the person who said, I'm a landscaper, connect me with people who need landscape services. Mm-hmm. And we do that multiple times over a year, so that habit gets built. That as soon as you hear somebody say, let's say you're out at lunch and hear somebody say, gosh, I really would love it to be connected to a quality roofer. Mm-hmm. And you can do it instantly. So that's how we do it. Our meetings are structured more like training sessions.
Got it. Okay. Well, training sessions with adult beverages and hors d'oeuvres, I heard that. So, so I get that. And I like that. Sara Branch is with us, folks. She is with Network in Action. So how have you seen, in terms of your community members, how has their approach to networking changed because of your work?
Yeah. Well, they've changed their view of looking at a prospect, let's say, as something other than a person with a business card. Mm. And that's what we want. Mm-hmm. I should not be looking at you, John Ray, as somebody, I just need to get your business card and get you on my list. Mm-hmm. The focus is on that person. What is it they need? What's the number one thing you need right now? Mm-hmm. Let's take that and move that out 30 days, 90 days. What would help you in the next 30, 60, 90 days? And to have a deeper conversation with that person to see what it is that's driving them to want referrals to begin with.
Right.
Then once you start talking to them about longer term goals, then we can help them with, then maybe you need maybe they need a type of service that maybe they didn't articulate, but that I insinuated from their conversation. Mm-hmm. Then I can introduce them to, let's say, a better banker. Let's say they need a new bank. Renaissance Bank would be a perfect example to say, they're small business bankers. You need to be connected with them. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. We look at close-end goals, mid-range, long-range goals, and help people work their way through getting the context they need to accomplish those goals.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating way to look at it. So what here's a tough one for you. So those folks out there are thinking, this sounds interesting, and really, I guess the comparable are the so-called leads groups.
Right.
So this is really the comparable out there that you're improving on. Right. So, what about my local Chamber of Commerce?
A local Chamber of Commerce is an excellent way to get connected to people. Mm-hmm. And I think people should belong to chambers of commerce. Mm-hmm. As I said, my husband is a partner with me. He's in one Chamber of Commerce. I'm in another. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good way to develop friendships. Mm-hmm. And to develop knowledge of what people are doing in a marketplace.
Right.
but it's just a good starting point. Mm-hmm. If you really want to develop deep relationships with people, and deep relationships are really the only way that networking works,
right,
then you need to get involved in a separate networking group. Mm-hmm. And of course, my group is great because we teach people how to have deeper networking relationships. But a Chamber of Commerce is a very good starting point, and I always encourage people to find a Chamber of Commerce or a business association to also be a part of.
Okay, cool. So what, this has a pandemic feel, if I can use that term to it, where, you know, there's a big virtual component to it. Did this organization start during the pandemic or not?
No, we started in 2008.
Okay.
And even in 2008, we had virtual groups.
Okay.
So we have a combination of face-to-face groups and virtual groups. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, our franchise has 3 nationwide virtual meetings every month. Mm. And the first of the month is called Network with the Nations. And we encourage every franchisee and every group member to participate. So that means people in Canada, the United States, Central America, South America, and soon to be in Europe have the option to be on that call. And you can have exposure nationwide, worldwide of your business. Now, it's not just a call where you sit and listen to somebody talk. We do have a topic brought up, and we're in Zoom breakout rooms, and we put 3, 4, 10 people in a breakout room, and they've got to discuss that topic, which is a way to get to know everybody even better. And we get major connections during our network with the nation. On the 3rd Wednesday of every month, we have a virtual call called Sales Mastery. And we have a thought leader, book author, somebody like that who comes on to another national call that talks about sales mastery. And yes, we don't have to listen to them talk for an hour and a half. They talk for maybe about a half an hour, put us in breakout rooms, give us exercises where we have to work on the concepts that they've brought out. And that is a sales mastery call. The last Wednesday of the month, we have a topic that is people might say random topics, but a few weeks ago we had a nutrition specialist who had just written a book, and people who have other business interests that will be a thought leader or a book, and they come on our national calls. And again, they talk for a few minutes, and then we have breakout rooms and we have to work. So this is something that we do franchise-wide.
Yeah. So this sounds like something that's much broader in scope than the traditional in-person networking group, even though some of these have online components, but they're static. I guess what I mean by that is just website based, and that's it.
Right.
And there's no like interaction between chapters or anything like that unless you go seek it out yourself. So it's a much broader concept, using technology in a wise way. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes, I think that's a very accurate description of it. We give everybody an opportunity to connect on our Zoom calls. We give everybody the opportunity to connect on our platform, on our phone, on the app, on the phone. And we also give people the ability to share information. It has a LinkedIn look and feel, so you can post ideas, ask questions, get input, have people help you with things. So yes, the technology, I think we've done a very good job of using technology and helping people get and stay connected with technology.
Yeah. Sara Branch is with us, folks. She is with Network in Action. So how does this, your business model, how does it affect the traditional networking event, conferences or other networking events?
Well, what we hope is that other networking conferences and events will understand that people introducing themselves to each other and exchanging business cards is not really networking. And we think that networking is so underrated because one connection with somebody, a true connection with a purpose, could change your life. So that's why we ask people that when you go to a networking event, you ask questions of that other person. Tell me about your business. Why'd you get in the business? What are your goals? Mm-hmm. What's your why? What is it? And what do you need right now? What is it that I possibly could help you with right now to improve your business? And we're finding people don't ask that kind of question.
Yeah, that amazes me. Well, it shouldn't amaze me, but it does.
Yeah.
So, but what you're getting people away from is getting all gussied up, to use a technical term, getting their elevator pitch all spit polished, right, and rhyming and singing or whatever, right, and nothing wrong with that, folks. But you're getting them away from that toward really getting in under the skin of other people and their business, and in a way to be helpful. Correct.
One of the exercises we do in our groups to help people get comfortable with that is we have an exercise called Around the World. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the room sits down, looks at each other. They've got 30 seconds to say, where were you born? How many brothers and sisters do you have? What'd your mama do? What'd your daddy do? Tell me something significant that happened in your life. Mm-hmm. And everybody looks at us like, well, that didn't have anything to do with business. It's like,
I bet you get some looks.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, it does. So inside of 25, 30 minutes, people have discovered some very interesting things, and everybody jumps up and says, oh, I want to go talk to Joe. Uh-huh. He's traveled around the world 3 times, or something like that.
Right.
So we find that type of exercise, when you reveal something about yourself, makes you more interesting, makes people want to talk to you. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Another thing that strikes me about what you're describing is that this is networking that's more appealing to introverts.
Absolutely.
So say more on that. Okay. And it sounds like you agree with me.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. I've had several people in the last couple of months come up to me and say, I cannot go to another weekly meeting. I don't want to stand up. I'm scared. Don't make me recite my elevator speech again. And that's happened on numerous occasions. And when I tell them, well, guess what? We only have monthly meetings, and you don't have to stand up and recite your elevator speech. We're in a relaxed environment with adult beverages and appetizers, and we just have relaxed conversations with a purpose. And I get reaction. One reaction I got the other day was, that's great. Count me in. I'm coming. Because he knew that he didn't have to stand up on a weekly basis at 7:30 in the morning and recite an elevator speech.
Right. Well, and then it's all the, if I can say this and describe it accurately, and it is a question, so I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong. But it's all the group maintenance that has to be done in the traditional leads group, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes it feels like it's more about the group than it is like the individual members of the group. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. And also there are times when a traditional leads group acts like the guest is more important than the member. Now, in Network in Action, we like guests and we'd like for them to come, but they are not the central focus of our meetings. And you're never asked to volunteer to do any management or recruiting or anything like that to bring people into the group.
Or bring donuts or whatever.
No, you don't have to do that.
Right.
Or have be a subgroup leader or anything like that. We are run professionally, and that means that the dues that you pay me to be your professional leader, and I run everything. And if you have a lead for our group, let's say, I think Susie would be a good person for the group. You give me that person's name and contact information, and you're done. I do the rest of the work. And I go interview them. I talk to them about it. And we do things a little differently in that we subject everybody to a background check.
Oh.
And their business is checked. So we know that they are a trustworthy person and that their business has been in business and does what they say that it does. It hasn't happened often, but occasionally in the past we've had people who would not let themselves be subjected to a background check because they knew there was a problem in their background.
So it's the primary qualification is not just that your check clears.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. So let's, as we wind down here, Sara, let's talk about success stories. I'm sure you've got plenty to share.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Where to start? We have people who have overcome, or I should say not overcome, but learned how to use their introverted nature to ask questions and to be more inquisitive. I think introverts are naturally inquisitive. They oftentimes just don't insert themselves into a conversation. But if you learn how to ask questions, which really is the foundation of selling, then you find out way much more about that other person, their business, and what they'd like to do. So we find that people are more comfortable with our methodology. They connect with people and make really good friends. We've got people who are friends after they've moved across the country. They were in our networking group for a year or two, and they move, and they're still best friends, and they keep up via Zoom or FaceTime. We've had people who have made that one solid connection that made a critical difference in their business, and that's what we want to do. We want to help entrepreneurs stay in business and have a steady path on a way to success. And if you go to our YouTube channel, Network in Action YouTube channel, you'll be able to see numerous videos of testimonials of people who have just been beyond thrilled with being a member of one of our groups nationwide.
Yeah. Wow. And just one more question and then we'll wrap it up. Are there any particular verticals that make more sense to be in Network in Action than another, or are you pretty much wide open?
We're wide open. And it depends on your willingness to want to connect with other people. But as I said earlier, small business owners, maybe one of their salespeople, a solopreneur, or a salesperson of a large corporation. And we have a lot of salespeople for big insurance companies, big banks, big financial companies, that kind of thing. So you're right. It's not just any one vertical. It's anybody who's trying to make business connections.
Okay. Terrific. Sara Branch, folks, with Network in Action. Sara, we've got to get to the most important question, which is how folks can find out more and get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Our franchise website is networkinaction.com, all one word, Network in Action. And my email address is Sara Branch, all one word, at networkinaction, all one word, .com. So that's Sara Branch at networkinaction.com.
Sara Branch with Network in Action. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, and most important thing.
Yes.
Sara without an H.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that is important. Sara Branch at networkinaction.com.
Right.
Terrific. Sara, thanks again.
Oh, thank you, John.
Hey, folks, just a quick reminder. If you've got problems in your business that involve a out-of-control back office, you've got administrative tasks that are weighing you down, you've got receipts flying out of boxes, and you need better bookkeeping solution than that, I've got an answer for you that involves a whole team of angels. Yes, Office Angels is the name of the firm, run by Chief Executive Angel Essie Escobedo. Give Essie a call, 770-442-9246. If you're shy, you can go to officeangels.us and learn more, but I suggest just calling her, explaining your problem, and let her pick an angel that can fly in, get the job done, and fly out. And they work on an ongoing or as-needed basis. So I know the great work they do myself because they do work for me, and they're fantastic. So give Essie a call, again, 770-442-9246, and tell her that we sent you, and get ready to have a business that's running a whole lot better than what it was before. And folks, just a quick, two quick things before we let you go. I've got a book coming out later this year. It's called The Price and Value Journey, Raising Your Confidence, Your Value, and Your Prices Using the Generosity Mindset Method. Again, later this year, 2023, that book will be out. You can go to pricevaluejourney.com to learn more about that, receive updates, find out about our podcast, that kind of thing. And also, I want to thank you, our listeners. So we are just past 650 episodes of North Fulton Business Radio, and we have succeeded because you have supported us. And one way you've done that is by sharing the show. When you've found someone who has got a great story or a product or service that your friends need to know about, you've shared the show, and please continue to do that. That helps us celebrate the great work of business leaders like Sara and helps them be found. And that's what we're all about here at Business RadioX, is celebrating business leaders and being the voice of business here in the North Fulton region. So for my guest, Sara Branch, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.